What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, what I want to do is that I want to address a recent news clip from Bill O'Reilly when he was on NewsNation having a conversation with Cuomo about essentially what we're all witnessing happening right now, and that is the collapse of the DNC. Now, before I get into it, I want to first say this. For quite some time now, I've been thinking to myself, but I haven't spoken this out loud yet, that I honestly cannot see the Democrats winning another presidential election for at least the next decade, right? This is how I felt. But I haven't echoed it because it seemed kind of silly. We haven't seen anything really like that before where one political party dominated over another party for a decade straight. We haven't seen anything like that before. So for the most part, I decided to that's just something I kept to myself, and that I would think in my mind the whole time, because I know that if I say that out loud, most people will say, "Oh, well, TD, you're a Trump supporter, so of course you're just automatically going to say that the Democrats are in disarray and they're collapsing and that they'll never come back." But it is looking like that's the direction that they're going into. And now in comes the Bill O'Reilly clip here with Cuomo on News Nation. Because as I was watching this here, he said something very interesting that showed that throughout the course of history, this has happened in the US once before. In the 1930s, the Democrats dominated the Republican Party literally for decades. 2 straight decades, the Republicans did not win an election. And I want to get into this clip right now so that he can give us a little bit of history. And then I'll go back into a couple of other things that I wanted to unpack concerning what Bill O'Reilly is discussing. But first, let's get into this clip first.
Donald Trump last night did what he wanted to do. Number one, he got on the record that his accomplishments in the first 6 weeks were fairly extraordinary, which is true, both good and bad. And number two, he taunted the Democratic Party into making a myriad of mistakes. I think the Democratic Party is on the verge of collapse. And I liken it to 1931, when Herbert Hoover and the Republican Party basically said to the very suffering American people in the Depression, "We're not helping you. You got to do it on your own. It's all about self-reliance. We're not going to give you any safety nets." That led to 5 consecutive Democratic wins. 5. Not until Dwight Eisenhower, 20 years later, did the Republicans recover. I see the same scenario for the Democrats. So I wrote a message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com, which I know you read every morning, first thing. It said, hey, didn't the far left, the Elizabeth Warrens, used to be against war, Vietnam, they're against Iraq, Afghanistan, they didn't want to whack Soleimani, Biden didn't even want to get bin Laden. Well, wasn't that their posture? But now, all of a sudden, they want to go in Ukraine and go and go and go and go. What happened? What happened was Trump hatred. And that's what the headline is of the speech last night. When you are hating someone, you lose all perspective. You lose all feeling. You're consumed.
And what he's saying is so true. This is why I keep making reference to Nancy Mace's line of questioning during the committee hearing on sanctuary cities, when she asked the 4 sanctuary city mayors, "Do you hate President Trump more than you love this country?" The Democrats are in the state that they're in for a multitude of reasons, but one of the biggest issues is that they despise Trump more than they love the country. And because they despise Trump, or I should say hate him more than they love the country, they can't agree on any common sense issues at all whatsoever, because to do that would be to acknowledge that Trump is right about a handful of things. Now, it's very easy to say, sure, he might be right about this, but he's wrong on how you go about pursuing a solution. So here is our solution. They can't even do that because they just cannot admit that he's right about anything. And because of this, they are in complete disarray, not knowing what to do or where to go next. One of the other big reasons that they're on the complete verge of collapse is because when you look at the Republican Party, which is MAGA, right? MAGA is the new Republican Party. And you look at the Democrat Party, MAGA is about over a decade ahead of them. They're literally over a decade ahead of them. Who are the old guard Republicans that are still around at the forefront, making noise and being a part of public discourse? None. When you look at MAGA right now, it's all new young talent. Whether you're talking about JD Vance, Marco Rubio, Byron Donalds, even Tulsi Gabbard. Take those four alone. Byron Donalds, JD Vance, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard. Who on the DNC side can mess with any of them? Literally nobody. You can literally see all four of them at some point in time being the Republican nominee. To which, who would be their rival on the DNC side? JB Pritzker? Because it looks like right now that's all they have is JB Pritzker. JB Pritzker's running around out here campaigning more than he's running the state of Illinois. Meanwhile, the state of Illinois is running a $3 billion deficit. But instead of taking care of his state as a governor, he's spending more time campaigning against Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is lying to you. Here's the truth. It's simple. Tariffs are a tax on Americans. When you buy something, you pay the tariff, not some foreign country. Trump's tariffs will raise the price on things like tomatoes and prescription medicines, electronics, toys, and more. Grocery prices are rising because of Trump's tax. New car prices are rising because of Trump's tax. Beer prices are rising because of Trump's tax.
This is one of many reasons why they're losing. They have no guidance. There seems to be no serious leadership at all whatsoever. And when you look at how the Republicans have the social media landscape on lock and key, social media is the new media. They operate and maneuver through social media, which is the new media, flawlessly. And look at what we've seen coming from the DNC side of things. One cringy video after another, after another, after another. It's completely ridiculous. How many of you all see the ridiculous video where it was a bunch of, DNC females, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and they were doing this weird, Street Fighter thing where they jumped out the sky and they take a pose. I mean, people were trashing it because of how cringy it was.
Choose your character.
Things are so bad for the DNC right now that they recently called an emergency meeting coming off of Donald Trump's speech to join Congress, where you had a Representative Al Green, I believe this man is 70-something years old, who was acting an entire fool, screaming and yelling at Trump in the middle of his address while wagging his cane at him. They censured him in Congress. And then what followed after that was this weird nonsensical singing by the DNC, where they gathered around him and started singing the equivalent of Negro spirituals. It was something very goofy. Now, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, because what I really want to do right now is that I want to take a moment to play this clip from Fox News, where Speaker of the House Mike Johnson discussed some of what he heard had went on with the DNC emergency meeting. So what I want to do right now before I forget is pull that clip up for you right now. So let's jump into this very quickly.
And look who it is for the very first time on the couch, House Speaker Mike Johnson. So good to have you here, Speaker Johnson.
So good to be with you. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, so thanks for the opportunity, ladies.
We've been wanting to have you, and we are quite excited. You know, I woke up this morning and I'm reading and, all the congressional publications, Politico, Punchbowl, Axios. Here's what they said happened last night. I was very intrigued by it. This is after the censure of Al Green. You have Politico Playbook citing Axios that says there was a very unhappy House Democratic leadership meeting. They had a come to Jesus meeting with a dozen House lawmakers. Punchbowl, elucidating on that, said that this included Maxwell Frost, Jasmine Crockett, two very outspoken Democrats, and they used the word that they were berated for their behavior.
Let's stop there. That speaks volumes that Jasmine Crockett was berated for her behavior as well as the other person. But I want to focus on Jasmine Crockett right now because this continues to prove that they're reacting right now. The DNC is operating just in a state of anarchy, we'll say, right? There is no governance. There is no leadership. This entire time that we have been seeing Jasmine Crockett all over the place, constantly on MSNBC, on CNN, they have her everywhere. This entire time, I thought that it was the DNC as an organization pushing Jasmine Crockett on us. But what this tells me is that this is Jasmine Crockett who has taken matters in her own hand to go on all these news networks and do all these little podcasts and whatnot that she's been doing in internet interviews where she's talking complete foolishness and nonsense. There have been so many clips circulating on the internet that I'm going to play for you right now where she is speaking some of the most foul-mouthed language when talking about President Trump. She referred to President Trump as a hoe. And on multiple occasions when speaking on Trump, as well as the rest of the House Republicans, she would refer to them as MFers multiple times over, dropping F-bombs. This is very unbecoming of someone who is supposed to be representing the United States in government. Dropping F-bombs, calling the president a hoe. This is craziness.
If you could tell Donald Trump anything tonight, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to grow a spine and stop being Putin's hoe.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
That's it.
That while we may not have the numbers just yet, that doesn't mean that we don't have fight left in our bodies. And so I am going to fight him every step of the way until we get what we deserve, because it was my ancestors that built this motherfucker. Okay, I'm done now. I'm done. But we're in the minority. But so long as we stand strong and not one Democrat falters, let me tell you, there are going to be Republicans that don't want to vote for this, and they can't lose more than one vote. So long as we stand together and so long as we're here, and the Republicans, they're dysfunctional. They can't get this done by themselves.
Is this a preview to how Democrats will message leading up to 2026?
So now, all things considered, I can see why in this emergency meeting she was berated, because you're making the Democrats look like fools. Now, it's not her alone that's making them look like fools. They're all looking like fools in general. But she's the most outspoken and is the biggest turnoff of the bunch. Now, let's let this clip play a little bit more, because I want us to get a little bit deeper into what Speaker of the House Johnson had to say concerning the meeting.
And they used the word that they were berated for their behavior. How ordinary is it for leadership to berate members of their own party? And were you surprised by this?
I wasn't surprised. It is extraordinary, but they did make fools of themselves on the House floor. And everyone saw it, everyone in the country. It was a reminder to them why we won so decisively in this last election cycle and why they lost. And they're really a party in total disarray, as you see it on vivid display right now. They don't have an identified leader. They don't have any vision for where they're going. They don't have a platform that they can run on because it was repudiated overwhelmingly in the election. So they're sort of flailing about, and it blew up on the House floor, and I think they deeply regret it. At least some of them do. Others apparently didn't get the message of the election.
No.
Now, concerning it blowing up on the House floor, I want to play this video in closing just because of how ridiculous it is, right? Not the video of Al Green shaking his cane and screaming at Trump the entire time he's trying to give a speech, to where he was then escorted out, but the next day, the following day, when Al Green was censured. Remember, I brought up the DNC House members gathered around him and started singing the equivalent of Negro spirituals. I just want to play this for you in closing, because once again, it's so cringe, it's so nonsensical, and it just goes to show just how removed from reality these people actually are, to think that somehow, I don't know, you're going to go viral with this, I guess. You're possibly going to go viral and it'll have some sort of effect that'll make people want to vote Democrat, but not really. It's just pushing everybody away even more.
The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the well? By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House has come to order. The House has come to order. What's it?
You wanted to let him keep doing this, or totally fair?
The House has come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business.
The Democrats are cooked, ladies and gentlemen. They're cooked. I will say this in closing. Come midterms, if the Republicans are able to hold on to the House and Senate comfortably, if not take more seats, we are witnessing history once again, ladies and gentlemen. I kid you not, I will put everything on it. We will be witnessing history again. But this time around, it's going to be the Republicans that are going to completely annihilate the Democrats for the next decade plus. Because once again, they have no answer for any of the new school Republicans. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Byron Donalds, Tulsi Gabbard, they have nothing, absolutely nothing. And I'll leave it there. With all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. And most importantly, please make sure you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.